Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay, so today we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, the Summum Bonum. We are starting with a new chapter today. That's chapter 22. Krishna steals the garments of the unmarried gopis. So we'll be discussing the first 4 verses today. The first verse has a purport, but the main philosophical point to understand this particular pastime comes in the 4th verse. So we'll be discussing the first 4 verses today. So I'll read the chapter summary first. Then I'll also read text 1, text 2 and 3, and we can repeat text 4 together. Right? So just read the chapter summary. So this chapter describes how the marriageable daughters of the cowherd men worshipped Katyayani to get Lord Shri Krishna as their husband, and how Krishna stole the garments of the young girls and gave the girls benedictions. During the month of Margashirsha, every day early in the morning, the young daughters of the cowherds would take one another's hands and, singing of Krishna's transcendental qualities, go to the Yamuna to bathe. Desiring to obtain Krishna as their husband, they would then worship the goddess Katyayani with incense, flowers and other items. One day, the young gopis left their garments on the shore as usual and began playing in the water while chanting of Lord Krishna's activities. Suddenly, Krishna himself came there, took away all the garments and climbed a nearby Kadamba tree. Wanting to tease the gopis, Krishna said, "I understand how fatigued you gopis are from your austerities, so please come onto the shore and take back your clothes." The gopis then pretended to become angry and said the cold water of the Yamuna was giving them great pain. If Krishna did not give them back their garments, they said they would inform King Kamsa of all that had happened. But if he did give the clothes back, they would willingly carry out his orders in the mood of humble servants. Sri Krishna replied that he had no fear of King Kamsa, and that if the girls really intended to follow his command and be his maidservants, they should each immediately come onto the shore and take their respective garments. The girls, trembling from the cold, climbed out of the water with their 2 hands covering their private parts. Krishna, who felt great affection for them, again spoke. "Because while executing a vow, you bathed in the water naked, you have committed an offense against the demigods. And to counteract it, you should offer obeisances with joined palms. Then your vow of austerity will achieve its full result." The gopis followed this instruction and, folding their hands in respect, offered obeisances to Sri Krishna. Satisfied, he gave them back their clothing. But the young girls had become so attracted to him that they could not leave. Understanding their minds, Krishna said that he knew they had worshipped Katyayani to get him as their husband. Because they had offered their hearts to him, their desires would never again become tainted by the mood of materialistic enjoyment, just as fried barley corns can no longer grow into shoots. Next autumn, he told them their most cherished desire would be fulfilled. Then the gopis, fully satisfied, returned to Vraja, and Sri Krishna and his cowherd friends went off to a distant place to graze the cows. Some time later, when the boys felt disturbed by the great heat of summer, they took shelter of the base of a tree that stood just like an umbrella. The Lord then said that the life of a tree is most excellent, for even while feeling pain, a tree continues to protect others from heat, rain, snow, and so on. With its leaves, flowers, fruits, shade, roots, bark, wood, fragrance, sap, ashes, pulp, and sprouts, a tree fulfills the desires of everyone. This kind of life is ideal. Indeed, said Krishna, the perfection of life is to act with one's vital energy, wealth, intelligence, and words for the benefit of all. After the Lord had glorified the trees in this way, the entire company went to the Yamuna, where the cowherd boys let the cows drink the sweet water and also drank some themselves. So text 1. Shri Shuka Uvacha. Hey, no, I'll repeat the fourth verse. Sorry. I'll just read the first three verses, then we can repeat the fourth verse together. Shri Shuka Uvacha. Hemante prathame masi nanda vrajakumarikaha. Kumarikaha cherur havisham bhunjana katyayanyarchanam vritam. Archana vritam. Shukdev Goswami said, during the first month of the winter season, the young unmarried girls of Gokula observed the vow of worshipping goddess Katyayani. For the entire month, they ate only unspiced khichdi. Purport. The word Hemante refers to the month of Margashirsha, from approximately the middle of November to the middle of December, according to the Western calendar. In chapter 22 of Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Srila Prabhupada comments that the gopis first ate havishyana, a kind of food prepared by boiling together moong dal and rice without any spices or turmeric. According to Vedic injunction, this kind of food is recommended to purify the body before one enacts a ritualistic ceremony. Text 2 and 3. Aplutyambhasi kalindya jalante chodite rune कृत्वा प्रकृतिं देवीं आनर्चुर्नृपसैकतीं गन्धैर्माल्ये सुरभिभिर्बलिभिर्धूपदीपकैः उच्चावचैश्चोपहारैः प्रवालफलतण्डुलैः. My dear king, after they had bathed in the water of the Yamuna just as the sun was rising, the gopis made an earthen deity of goddess Durga on the river bank. They then worshipped her with such aromatic substances as sandalwood pulp, along with other items, both opulent and simple, including lamps, fruits, betel nuts, newly grown leaves, and fragrant garlands and incense. Purport. The word balibhi in this verse indicates offerings of clothing, ornaments, food, and so on. So text 4, please repeat after me. Katyayani Mahamaye Mahayogini Adhishwari Nandagopasutam Devi Patim Me Kuru Te Namaha Iti Mantram Japantyaha Taha Pujam Chakruhu Kumarikaha. Katyayani Mahamaye Mahayoginyadhishwari Nandagopasutam Devi Patim Me Kurute Namaha Iti Mantram Japantyasta Pujam Chakruh Kumarikaha. Katyayani Mahamaye Mahayoginyadhishwari Nandagopasutam Devi Patim Me Kurute Namaha Iti Mantram Japantyastah Pujam Chakruh Kumarikaha. Katyayani Mahamaye Mahayoginyadhishwari Nandagopasutam Devi Patim me kurute namaha. Iti mantram japantasya. Pujam chakruh kumarikaha. Katyayani mahamaye. Mahayogyenyadhishwari. Nandagopasutam devi. Patim me kurute namaha. Iti mantram japantasya. Pujam chakruh kumarikaha. Matadis. Katyayani mahamaye. Mahayogyenyadhishwari. Nandagopasutam devi. Patim me kurute namaha. Iti mantram japantasya. Pujam chakrum kumarikaha. Katyayani. O goddess Katyayani. Mahamaye. O great potency. Mahayogini. O possessor of great mystic power. Adhishwari. O mighty controller. Nanda Gopasutam. The son of Maharaj Nanda. Devi. O goddess. Patim. The husband. Me. My. Kuru. Please make. Te. Unto you. Namaha. My obeisances. Iti. With these words. Mantram. The hymn. Japantyaha. Chanting. Tah. They. Pujam. Worship. Chakruhu. Performed. Kumarikaha. The unmarried girls. Translation purport by the disciples of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Translation. Each of the young unmarried girls performed her worship while chanting the following mantra. O Goddess Katyayani, O great potency of the Lord, O possessor of great mystic power and mighty controller of all, please make the son of Nanda Maharaj my husband. I offer my obeisances unto you. Purport. According to various acharyas, the goddess Durga mentioned in this verse is not the illusory energy of Krishna called Maya, but rather the internal potency of the Lord known as Yoga Maya. The distinction between the internal and external or illusory potency of the Lord is described in the Narada Pancharatra, in the conversation between Shruti and Vidya. Janate ka parakantam saiva durga tadatmika ya para parama shaktir mahavishnu swarupini yasya vijnana matrena paranam paramatmanah muhurta deva devasya praptir bhavati nanyatha ekeyam prema sarvasva svabhava gokuleshwari anaya sulabho gneya adidevo khileshwarah asya avari kakshaktir mahamaya khileshwari yaya mugdam jagat sarvam sarve dehabhimaninah. The Lord's inferior potency, known as Durga, is dedicated to His loving service. Being the Lord's potency, this inferior energy is non-different from Him. There is another superior potency whose form is on the same spiritual level as that of God Himself. Simply by scientifically understanding this supreme potency, one can immediately achieve the supreme soul of all souls, who is the Lord of all lords. There is no other process to achieve Him. That supreme potency of the Lord is known as Gokuleshwari, the goddess of Gokula. Her nature is to be completely absorbed in love of God, and through her one can easily obtain the primeval God, the Lord of all that be. This internal potency of the Lord has a covering potency known as Mahamaya, who rules the material world. In fact, she bewilders the entire universe, and thus everyone within the universe falsely identifies himself with the material body. From the above, we can understand that the internal and external, or superior and inferior, potencies of the Lord are personified as Yogamaya and Mahamaya, respectively. The name Durga is sometimes used to refer to the internal superior potency as stated in the Pancharatra. In all mantras used to worship Krishna, the presiding deity is known as Durga. Thus, in the transcendental sound vibrations glorifying and worshipping the absolute truth, Krishna, the presiding deity of the particular mantra or hymn is called Durga. The name Durga therefore refers also to that personality who functions as the internal potency of the Lord and who is thus on the platform of Shuddha Sattva, pure transcendental existence. This internal potency is understood to be Krishna's sister, known also as Ekanamsha or Subhadra. This is the Durga who was worshipped by the gopis in Vrindavan. Several acharyas have pointed out that ordinary people are sometimes bewildered and think that the names Mahamaya and Durga refer exclusively to the external potency of the Lord. Even if we accept hypothetically that the gopis were worshipping the external Maya, there is no fault on their part, since in their pastimes of loving Krishna, they were acting as ordinary members of society. Srila Prabhupada comments in this regard, the Vaishnavas generally do not worship any demigods. Srila Narottam Das Thakur has strictly forbidden all worship of the demigods for anyone who wants to advance in pure devotional service. Yet the gopis, who are beyond compare in their affection for Krishna, were seen to worship Durga. The worshippers of demigods also sometimes mention that the gopis worshipped goddess Durga, but we must understand the purpose of the gopis. Generally, people worship the goddess Durga for some material benediction. Here, the gopis pray to the goddess to become wives of Lord Krishna. The purport is that if Krishna is the center of activity, a devotee can adopt any means to achieve that goal. The gopis could adopt any means to satisfy or serve Krishna. That was the super excellent characteristic of the gopis. They worshipped goddess Durga completely for 1 month in order to have Krishna as their husband. Every day they prayed for Krishna, the son of Nanda Maharaj, to become their husband. The conclusion is that a sincere devotee of Krishna will never imagine any material quality to exist in the transcendental gopis, who are the most exalted devotees of the Lord. The only motivation in all their activities was simply to love and satisfy Krishna, and if we foolishly consider their activities to be mundane in any way, it will be impossible for us to understand Krishna consciousness. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vishtaya Bhutale Shri Bhakti Vikasa Swami Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vishtaya Bhutale Shri Bhakti Vikasa Swami Namaste Saraswati Gauravan Prasad Nirvishesha Shunavadi Mahashara Deshatarani Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Veda Vedanta Shivasadi Deva Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Ram Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare Krishna Prada Shri Govinda Haranam. So I'll read the translation again. Each of the young unmarried girls performed her worship while chanting the following mantra. O Goddess Katyayani, O great potency of the Lord, O possessor of great mystic power and mighty controller of all, please make the son of Nanda Maharaj my husband. I offer my obeisances unto you. Okay. So this chapter and the previous chapter also, and the chapter before that, is a precursor, we can say, to the Ras Leela pastimes, which are discussed from the 29th chapter onwards. So after this chapter, then the Govardhan pastime comes, and then after that follows the Ras Leela pastimes. So now this one, if we see the nature of this pastime, it's very confidential. Okay, it's a very confidential pastime, and it's a very popular pastime also, right? This Leela is very popular. Everybody knows about it. So it's a very confidential pastime. But the main reason why we combined although the first verse also had purport, we came to the fourth verse. We are discussing the fourth verse today for a specific reason, to really know and understand how this pastime has to be understood, and how there's lots of misunderstanding that's going around because of this. Correct? So although this Leela is known very famously, but it's not properly understood. And if we see with respect to the gopis, in these first four verses, the acharyas, their commentaries are immense. They write lots and lots of commentaries, lots and lots of information about the gopis. So I tried to go through them, but it was difficult to understand, because the gopis' position is so exalted that they are the most confidential devotees of the Lord, and to understand their nature, their mood, and the different varieties of gopis itself is elaborated and explained in such a way that, at least for my level, it was difficult for me to grasp. And this verse specifically, in fact, the first verse speaks about this Kumarikaha, right? So Kumarika means unmarried girls, and the acharyas get into this discussion about the different types of gopis. That there are unmarried gopis, there are married gopis, and then there are gopis who came as who were Shrutis in the previous lifetime. Then they came in this lifetime as gopis. Then there are gopis from Mithila, there are gopis from Ayodhya, there are gopis from Koshala kingdom, there are gopis from different other places who wanted to associate with Krishna from Lord Ramachandra's pastimes. So like that, the explanation is, it keeps on going. And this also, if those who are aware of Gaudiya Vaishnava history would know that there was a controversy as to Swakiyavad and Parakiyavad. Okay, so are the gopis married to Krishna, or are the gopis not married to Krishna? So there's two factions. That's always there, or not always there, but it was historically. That was, it is said that Jiva Goswami specifically pushed for this Swakiyavad, whereas Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he pushed for this Parakiyavad. So all these controversies, this verse, the set of four verses, the controversy stems from here. Actually not controversial. We do know the conclusion of what it is all about, but we are not going to get into that. But the point is that this verse has been commented very extensively by the acharyas. And one point which the acharyas very specifically comment with respect to the married gopis, which will be discussed during the Raslila pastimes, is that all these gopis were actually under the influence of Yogamaya. They were not under the influence of Mahamaya. And for unmarried gopis, there's no hindrance due to their husband and so on. But for the married gopis also, Yogamaya arranged things in such a way that the gopas to whom they were married, they never had any association with them. Yogamaya created duplicate forms of these gopis, and these gopis are only associating with the gopas. And the gopis who are the eternal associates of Krishna, they never had any association with the gopas. So Yogamaya basically orchestrated all these pastimes. So we'll be discussing a little bit more about Yogamaya. And specifically to this word which is used, Kumarikaha, the acharyas explain that these girls were not older than 6 or 6.5. So basically, these girls were very, very young, and they were very innocent also. So if you see, they would have seen their mothers, their fathers, how they act as husband and wives and so on. So girls naturally have this tendency to be in family life. So they also want someone who is very attractive to them as their husband. So in that innocence, they are praying to Katyayani to have Krishna as their husband. So this is not something which is to be understood as mundane lust. It was out of pure love and attraction to Krishna, and having husband as Krishna was out of innocence which these girls have, because they were very small. They were only 6.5 years old, and Krishna himself was not older than that. He was 7 or 7.5 only. That's all, not more than that. So with respect to gopis, if we see, this pastime itself is happened at a very innocent age for both the gopis as well as for Krishna. And with respect to Krishna also, this particular verse, if we see, it speaks about Yogamaya and Mahamaya. So normally, people know about this pastime, and of course, in India, they have heard of Krishna. They go to Krishna's temple. They heard of Lord Vishnu also. So they know of him, but what they do not know is that Krishna has his energies also, his potencies. Now, Krishna is being spoken about with respect to his leelas. And people understand that in Bhagavad Gita, he gave philosophical knowledge also. with respect to soul, and then what is Atma, what is modes of material nature, and so on. If this is, I'm talking about those 1 or 2% of people who actually go and read Bhagavad Gita, they'll have some idea about it. But then Krishna does not very directly speak about the workings of his potency. He did mention about his potencies, no? He says, Sambhavami Atma Maya, then he says, Deivesha Gunamai, Mama Maya Duratya, then Mahatmanastu Maam Partha, Deivim Prakriti Mashritaha. He gives some hints about that he has his potencies also. But then the focus is not on these potencies, the focus on what activity a person is supposed to do, how he is supposed to worship the Lord, and then transcend the modes of material nature and so on. No? Take up devotional service. That is Bhagavad Gita's focus, if we have to speak in a very generic manner. But the workings of this potency and how Krishna's leelas have to be understood with respect to the way his internal potency acts is what forms the crux of this particular pastime. So that's why in the 4th verse, the Acharyas, they mention very specifically that the gopis, they were worshipping Katyayani, who is the form of Yogamaya, and it's indicative to us, to those who are reading this pastime, those who are hearing this pastime, that we also have to take shelter of the Yogamaya potency to understand this pastime properly. Now, if we think of these pastimes as mundane affairs between a boy and a girl, then we are bound to misunderstand this pastime, and we are bound to think of Krishna as a lusty person, and these girls also as someone who have this, this idea of, showcasing their body to Krishna, so to speak. So therefore, this particular purport is very important for us to understand. Otherwise, the pastime is completely misunderstood. And Krishna does give, he says that Janma Karma Chame Divyam. He says that his birth and activities are transcendental. And this is the basis through which this particular pastime has to be understood. So if you see, Krishna, to understand Krishna is difficult, right? And to understand the gopis is even more confidential. And working of, or the pastimes between Krishna and the gopis can be understood only when we understand the more confidential workings of how the energies of Krishna work, how Yogamaya and Mahamaya works. Correct? So for as devotees, it is important for us to understand how Yogamaya and Mahamaya works. So this particular purport, this conversation between Shruti and Vidya, which is quoted from Narada Pancharatra, is very, very illuminating in that sense. So it says, Janati Ekapara Kantam Shaiva Durga Tadatmikaha. So this speaks about the Mahamaya, the Durga or the Mahamaya energy of the Lord, which is Apara, which is within this material world. Yapara Paramashaktir Mahavishnu Swarupini. But there is one more, who is Para Prakriti, who is Para Paramashaktir. And she is Parama, she is superior to Mahamaya, and she is Mahavishnu Swarupini. Yasya Vijnana Matrena Paranam Paramatmanaha. So by knowing Yasya Vijnana Matrena means properly understanding this spiritual energy of the Lord, one can understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Paranam Paramatmanaha. And Muhurtad Deva Devasya Praptir Bhavati Nanyatha. And to attain the Supreme Lord, there is no other way than to understand this spiritual potency of the Lord. Correct? So it showcases how important it is for us to understand or differentiate between what is Yogamaya, what is Mahamaya, whether the activities which you are performing comes under the jurisdiction of Mahamaya and Yogamaya. So all these things we have to understand. Now Srila Prabhupada, when he explained, when he gave us Krishna consciousness, he explains all these things in the manner of material activities and spiritual activities. But actually speaking, material activities are under the jurisdiction of Mahamaya and spiritual activities are under the jurisdiction of Yogamaya. And a devotee has to understand, of course, whether his activities that he is performing, even the devotional service, the devotional activities that he is performing, whether they are gradually gravitating towards Mahamaya or whether they are fully focused on Yogamaya. So all those things have to be understood to actually achieve the goal. If we really want to make progress in Krishna consciousness, this distinction has to be understood, and we should always see how our activities are being channeled properly, whether they are being channeled properly or not. Then, Ekayam Prema Sarvasva Swabhava Gokuleshwari Anaya Sulabhogneya Adidevo Khileshwaraha. Then, if we read the translation itself, so it says that supreme potency of the Lord is known as Gokuleshwari, the goddess of Gokula. Her nature is to be completely absorbed in love of God, and through her, one can easily obtain the primeval God, the Lord of all that be. This internal potency of the Lord has a covering potency known as Mahamaya, who rules the material world. So now this line may suggest that it's speaking about Srimati Radharani, but actually it is not. Okay, it is speaking specifically about Yogamaya. So Yogamaya or Vrindadevi is also known as Gokuleshwari, and her nature also is to be completely absorbed in love of God, and through her one can easily obtain the primeval God, the Lord of all that be. So this internal potency of the Lord has a covering potency known as Mahamaya, who rules the material world. In fact, she bewilders the entire universe, and thus everyone within the universe falsely identifies himself with the material body. Right? So, in Shvetashvatara Upanishad, it is said, Parasa Shaktir Vividheva Shruyate. So, Parasa Shaktir means the Lord has one potency, but it works in various ways, in varied ways. So, Vividheva Shruyate Swabhaviki Jnana Bala Kriyacha. So, right, this is the verse. So, it's the same potency, the internal potency of the Lord, which actually works in two ways, as Yogamaya and Mahamaya. Now, we may have a question. No? We just discussed that we have to distinguish between Yogamaya and Mahamaya, but then it's the one single potency of the Lord. So, how to understand that? So, from Krishna's perspective, the potency is only one. He has only Yogamaya potency, but we, as expansions of the Lord, because we are the marginal potency of the Lord, we have this tendency to distinguish. From our side, when we see, from Krishna's side, when he sees, it's only one single potency. But when from our side, when we see, because we are the marginal potencies of the Lord, we see distinctions, we see differentiation, where Krishna hides himself or reveals himself through Yogamaya potency. Okay, and then when he wants to bewilder the living entities so that they can enjoy or they can fulfill their desire to enjoy in this material world, he covers them through his Mahamaya potency. So it is the same potency which acts in two different ways. And Srila Prabhupada explains that in terms of electricity. So he says, when electricity can be used to heat, at the same time, the same electricity can be used to cool something as well. Right? There are heaters and there are air conditioners also. So it's the same potency, it's the same electricity which works in two different ways. So with respect to the living entities, it works in these two different ways. So there is Yogamaya and there is Mahamaya. So those who are devoted to Krishna, those who take up devotional life, then they come under the shelter of Yogamaya. Right? So Krishna's Yogamaya potency, his internal potency, or that potency which is intimate to Krishna, because Krishna sees only Yogamaya. For him, there is no Mahamaya. When Krishna comes down to this material world, he is not under influence of Mahamaya at all. Right? For him, it's only Yogamaya. When he comes here, he is Sambhavami Atma Maya, Ajopisan Avayatma, Bhutanam Ishwaropisan, Prakritim Swam Adhisthaya, Sambhavami Atma Maya, he says. Through his Atma Maya only he descends. So Yogamaya is actually the one which allows Krishna to manifest himself, if we can say that way. Although these energies are under Krishna's control, but when Krishna comes, now this manifestation happens through the agency of Yogamaya. So Krishna never comes under the control of Mahamaya. So Yogamaya is very intimately related to Krishna. So when devotees take up devotional service, or when a person takes up devotional service, by coming under the shelter of Yogamaya, then he becomes intimate to Krishna. He becomes closer to Krishna that way. And when he does not want to come to Krishna, he is inimical to Krishna, or he is envious of Krishna, or he has, this Bahirmukha is there, he is Krishna Bahirmukh. He does not have to do anything with Krishna, he does not want to take up Krishna consciousness, then he comes under the influence of Mahamaya, which basically bewilders him, and then Krishna is not revealed to him. He is not intimate to Krishna anymore. That way. Of course, Krishna has his mercy on all his living entities. All the living entities are his amshas only. He also says, Pitahamasya Jagato Mata Data Pitamaha. All the living entities are actually his sons and children. That's how Krishna sees them. But because these children do not want to take shelter of Krishna, then, and by nature, the living entities are Krishna conscious, but then they do not want to take shelter of Krishna. So therefore, they have to be put under a particular potency which makes them bewilder, which basically hides their eternal nature, and that is called Mahamaya potency. So this is the same potency of Krishna, but she acts in different ways with respect to the desires of the living entity. So the living entity desires Krishna, Yogamaya. If the living entity does not desire Krishna, then it is Mahamaya. Right? So, if we see, if we have to extend this particular principle, so spiritual activities which a person performs, if he is doing, even devotional activities, if a person performs for his own gain, for his own benefit, or say for his love, puja and pratishtha, that kind of activity, devotional activities, do not fall perfectly into this Yogamaya activities, or they do not perfectly fall into spiritual activities. They fall into material activities because the goal is not pure Krishna consciousness. Now, Yogamaya, she acts when, she acts perfectly when there is this Anyabilashita Shunyam is there. Nectar of devotion. We are discussing that in our Gurukula. Nectar of devotion says very clearly, Sri Rupa Goswami defines pure devotion as Anyabilashita Shunyam, Jnana Karmadhyanavartam, Anukulena Krishnanu, Shelanam Bhakti Ruttama. So there he says that supreme topmost bhakti is that where the devotee does not have any other abhilasha, Anyabilashita Shunyam, and Jnana and Karma Anavritam. And one's consciousness or one's motivation should not be with respect to Jnana or Karma, or his consciousness should not be covered by Jnana and Karma, and that is pure devotional service. So one who has his motive as pure devotional service, when he performs devotional activities, then Yogamaya takes him under her shelter. Okay, but when devotion is performed with ulterior motives, with respect to karma or with respect to jnana, or for becoming one with the Lord, then it is under the jurisdiction of Mahamaya. It is not under the shelter of Yogamaya anymore. Right? So, Mayavadis say that he performs spiritual activities. They perform all kinds of puja. They also chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra. They also do Krishna puja, Radha Krishna puja, this, that and all, everything they do. But then are their activities under the potency of Yogamaya? No. It is under the shelter of Mahamaya because their understanding of Krishna is wrong. They do not consider Krishna having a transcendental personality, and that when he appears through the agency of his Yogamaya, and that he is never affected by anything material. Right? What is their understanding? Mayavadis. Mayavadis means when Krishna comes down, then Krishna is influenced by the modes of material nature, specifically Sattva-guna. They say Krishna is not under Rajoguna or Tamoguna, but then he is under Sattva-guna, but this still guna is, his form is made up of Sattva-guna, but it's still material. That is what their understanding is. With that understanding, when they prosecute these devotional activities, or activities which are devotional, chanting of Hare Krishna Mahamantra, or performing puja and so on, although these activities are devotional activities, but they will not get any benefit out of it because they are under the shelter of Mahamaya, or they are taken shelter of Mahamaya because their goal or understanding of Krishna is not proper. So, we say Sambandha, Abhidaya and Prayojana. So, Sambandha Gyan itself involves to understand that Krishna, when he comes, or Krishna is never under the influence of Mahamaya, he is always under Yogamaya. And not under Yogamaya means, he reveals himself through Yogamaya. And to understand Krishna, one has to take shelter of Yogamaya. By having some different motivation, or by having some different ideas or different motives or different attitude, one will not be able to understand Krishna. So Sambandha Gyan will never be proper. And because Sambandha Gyan is not proper, then Abhidaya, although the activities may be properly executed, but because the Sambandha Gyan is not proper, the proper goal is never achieved. So it all remains under the jurisdiction of Mahamaya, and of course Prayojana will not be achieved because one has not taken shelter of Yogamaya. So one has to surrender on to Krishna. So that's why this verse becomes very important. Mahatmanastu mam partha daivim prakriti mashritaha. So one has to take shelter of the energy of the Lord, right? Or of the devotees of the Lord. So one has to take shelter of the devotees, associate with devotees, and that is the only way to understand properly as to who Krishna is. And once that understanding comes, then one can prosecute Krishna consciousness properly. His devotional activities will start bearing fruit. Otherwise, devotional activities also will not bear any fruit, because Mahamaya hides Krishna. The duty of Mahamaya itself is to hide Krishna, is not to reveal him. So how Krishna will be revealed? Knowledge of Krishna will be revealed by taking shelter of Yogamaya, or by coming in association of devotees who are situated in Yogamaya, right? Because they take shelter of Yogamaya. Mahatmanastu mam partha daivim prakriti mashritaha. They are taken shelter of Devi Prakriti. So this is how it is to be understood. And if we say with respect to Hindus, primarily Hindus means those who are Mayavadis. Because in the conception of Hinduism is what? It is that there are many gods and one can take shelter of any of these devatas and they can achieve the same goal. Actually, Srila Prabhupada writes, I have references but will not have time. He writes that, specifically in Chaitanya Charitamrita, I think in Madhya Lila chapter 8, text 90, the purport, you can go back and read. There he explains this entire concept of Yogamaya and Mahamaya, and he says that those people take shelter of different devatas, and they put forth various arguments saying that just like a particular destination can be reached by any of the roads which go to that destination, similarly one can worship any of the demigods and reach that particular destination. So this is one of the arguments that they give. So similarly, any of the devatas can be worshipped and one will attain the transcendental nature. So when the proper understanding or spiritual understanding is not there, then these kind of misconceptions arrive. So Hinduism is specifically, we can say that it's all Mayavad only, because they do not have proper understanding of who Krishna is, and that one has to take shelter. There is no understanding of what Yogamaya is. According to them, Yogamaya is the personality. When Krishna appeared, then Yogamaya also appeared at the side of Yashoda, and then the transfer happened, all these things happened. This is how the Leela played out. But do they really know Krishna's transcendental position? Do they know how Yogamaya acts and how Mahamaya acts, and how their worship of demigods also comes completely under the jurisdiction of Mahamaya? Most of the Hindus, although they would know who Krishna is, who gopis are, and so on, superficially with respect to this Leela, they will not have any understanding of how these potencies work and how this pastime has to be understood with respect to Yogamaya and Mahamaya potency. So one who thinks of this Leela in a very mundane manner, thinking these are just activities between a boy and a girl, and then relish it, right? See, it's just like in movies. When movies play, and then there is a handsome boy, who is perfect in all sense, and there's a beautiful girl, and then they interact, they mix and all those things, there's a sense of satisfaction that the audience feels. That is why people go to movies. Why are they attracted to movies? Why are they attracted to different kinds of novels which speak about all these things? Because they picture themselves in that manner as to what is happening on the movie screen, or what are the characters playing around in different types of novels. All these things are imitation of Krishna only. But because they're imitating Krishna in a mundane manner, everything comes under the jurisdiction of Mahamaya, and they do not make any progress with all these mundane activities. So, this is there. So, one has to understand as to this Leela is to be understood with that particular understanding that Krishna, when he comes, he is completely transcendental. The gopis who are praying to become Krishna as their husband, they are not praying to Mahamaya, they are praying to Yogamaya. And by taking shelter of Yogamaya, they achieve their goal of obtaining Krishna as their husband. Correct? So all these things happens under the jurisdiction of Yogamaya. So if we really have to go through, to understand this pastime, as we're discussing this, we have to make sure that our thoughts are pure, that we have taken shelter of Krishna's devotees, try to understand this pastime through Srila Prabhupada's words, and take shelter of Yogamaya potency. Basically taking shelter of Yogamaya potency is to perform devotional activities without any other motive. So when we are doing devotional activities, there should not be any other motive, but only to please Krishna. Because this purport also says that although apparently, hypothetically, even if we say that these gopis were praying to Krishna or praying to Katyayani, who is the form of Durga, as a demigod, still, their goal is to attain pure love for Krishna only, to attain Krishna as their husband. So till it is to be understood as pure devotional service only. So the goal should be proper. Now, with respect to this demigod worship of the gopis, normally, Srila Prabhupada also mentions that sometimes it is said that the gopis worship the demigods who are the topmost devotees. So devotees also can worship demigods. No fault in that. And in fact, in Nectar of Devotion also, Rupa Goswami mentions that Ganesha can be worshipped to remove the obstacles in devotional service. So that is also there. And some people, some devotees also have Shivalinga, they do Abhishek for Shivalinga and so on. All those things are there. But the understanding is that our acharyas did not recommend that. Now, how do we understand devotional service? We understand devotional service through Srila Prabhupada, through the disciplic section, through the acharyas. So Srila Prabhupada, being the founder acharya of ISKCON, we being the followers of Srila Prabhupada, when Srila Prabhupada did not institute it, so we don't have to do it. Correct? Had our acharya instituted that, then it makes sense to follow. But if Srila Prabhupada did not institute this kind of worship, and he has given a specific way of performing devotional service, we should just follow that, and that way we can protect ourselves from getting down into Mahamaya and staying in Yogamaya potency that way. So although the gopis prayed like that, but then the Acharya is very clear here also that the gopis did not pray to Durga, who is the consort of Lord Shiva. They prayed to Durga, who is the internal potency of the Lord. So now Durga also means one who is very difficult to achieve. We know that when we are preaching outside, we say Durga is like a fort. We are within this material world. We are bound within this fort, and Durga is the one who is taking control of this fort within this prison of this material world. And if we have to go out, then we have to take shelter of Krishna, and so on. We say so. Durga and Durga refers to one who is the Adhipati, or who is the master of this material world. But Durga also means one who is very difficult to achieve. So, at some places in the Pancharatra Shastra itself, Radharani is mentioned as Durga because getting her mercy is very difficult. And in fact, Krishna is also mentioned as Durga. So, Krishna is also Durga, Radharani is also Durga because they are very difficult to achieve. To please them, it takes effort. One has to be austere. One has to take up devotional service with pure motive. So, what Krishna sees is not how much austerities and penances we have performed. He sees how pure our motive is in serving Him. How pure our motive is, how pure our attitude is in taking shelter of the pure devotees. So if our motive and attitude is pure, then that is equivalent to taking shelter of Yogamaya. That is equivalent of serving and pleasing Krishna. That is equivalent of serving and pleasing Srimati Radharani. So that is how devotional service has to be performed. So they are Durga in that way because taking shelter of Yogamaya with all our samskaras is difficult, but it has to be performed. And by the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, by the mercy of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, this can be achieved. So we'll not get deep into that. But this is the basic understanding. If we have to understand this particular pastime, then we have to understand that Krishna's pastimes are transcendental. His form is transcendental. His name is transcendental. The gopis are transcendental. Although their activities may seem as if they are just following the normal Vedic culture, but whatever worship they do, whatever culture they follow, everything is for pleasing Krishna. So everything comes under the jurisdiction of Yogamaya. So the entire Vraja life is full under Yogamaya. It's under the control. This in Narada Pancharatra also, this verse that we read just now, this translation I'll just read again. That supreme potency of the Lord is known as Gokuleshwari, the goddess of Gokula. So this is Yogamaya. So whoever attains Vraja, everybody is under the shelter of Yogamaya. Nobody is under the shelter of Mahamaya. Her nature is to be completely absorbed in love of God, and through her, one can easily obtain the primeval God, the Lord of all that be. So this internal potency has a covering potency also, which is known as Mahamaya. So if we have to summarize from the Lord's perspective, it's only one potency. But for the living entities, it manifests in two different ways, Yogamaya and Mahamaya. So, in last class also, when I spoke, this point was mentioned that everybody is actually serving Krishna in one way or the other. Correct? This point was made, and some questions also came up with respect to that. So, how are they serving? They are serving under the shelter of Mahamaya. Primarily, those who are in this material world, they are all serving under Mahamaya, and the pure devotees, they are serving under Yogamaya. So because both these potencies are Krishna's potencies, so everybody is serving Krishna only in the ultimate sense. Although those who are Mahamaya, they have no information about Krishna, they have no knowledge about Krishna. So they are serving the potency of the Lord, but that potency bewilders the living entity, and they'll never be able to achieve Krishna. And which basically means that they'll never be able to understand and realize their transcendental position, their eternal nature. So that way, they always struggle within this material world, although they are serving the potency of the Lord, but it's a covering potency. So one has to take shelter of the Yogamaya potency so that the covering is removed, and then he gets situated in his eternal constitutional position. Right? So this pastime specifically has to be understood in, not this pastime, the entire Srimad Bhagavatam actually has to be understood in that way. But then there are certain pastimes which are kind of bewildering in nature, specific this particular pastime, because living entities by nature within this material world have this lust within their heart. And these kind of pastimes sometimes try to, or it seems apparently that they're promoting those lusty desires, but actually they are not. Because if we understand Krishna's position, the gopis' position, then they are completely transcendental that way. That's why all these explanations also the Acharyas gave. The first 9 cantos are meant for purification, are meant for us to practice taking shelter of Yogamaya. Now, this practice happens in the first 9 cantos, and when we come to the 10th canto, then we are actually situated in Yogamaya. So that is how it is to be understood. Fine, so I'll stop here. Do you have any questions or comments?
Their desire was to simply please Krishna. So even if you have taken it as Durga, but their motive was simply to attain Krishna. So I mean, and if you in the Who is Supreme also, that is given as one of the reference that they even prayed to the trees for that matter. So their goal was that. And just one other question. I was a little curious to know who is this Shruti and Vidya, which is mentioned here. Any information on that?
No. I could not explore that.
Okay.
So yeah.
And just for churning, one other analogy usually we discuss also that we have a screen. One side of the screen is Yogamaya, and another side of the screen is Mahamaya. Yes. So that is also a nice example, often discussed.
Yes. So yeah. So it's like it's like light. If there's light source and there's a screen, on this side of the screen it's all light, but then on that side of the screen everything is darkness, right? So on this side, if we see, everything seems dark, but then if you see from that side, it's not dark actually. So it's illuminating. So yeah, so being the marginal potency of the Lord, the tendency to always oscillate between Yogamaya and Mahamaya is there unless we attain the transcendental state. So it's always there. When we take up devotional service and we are performing devotional service, the motive is pure also. Sometimes due to our samskaras, there's a tendency to oscillate or to go to Mahamaya and Yogamaya and so on. This oscillation is there. Some of our activities or some of our desires sometimes are material in nature. So we have to identify those things. We have to identify and we have to protect ourselves so that although the desire may be there, we do not indulge in that desire and try to satisfy it. So this is the life of a devotee, a sadhana bhakta, that he has to ensure that although desires may come within the heart, he should not start working or indulging in those desires and start performing those activities to fulfill those material desires. We're talking about material desires. Because then he leaves the shelter of Yogamaya and starts getting drawn towards Mahamaya. So the desires may come up, but a devotee should always protect himself by not indulging in those desires, not trying to fulfill those desires. He should just leave those desires as is, and those desires will automatically go as he gets more and more taste in Krishna consciousness. So Vishayavani vartante niraharasa dehina rasavarjam rapsopyasya param dishva nivartate. So these desires will only sustain or only will be there unless till we get this taste of Krishna consciousness. When we come to that taste of Krishna consciousness, when that taste comes, then all this desire starts seeming very insignificant. So Mahamaya will not hold any attraction for the devotee anymore. His attraction will only towards Krishna under the potency of Yogamaya. So those things are there. Actually, this discussion can be elaborated more and more with respect to each and every aspect of our life and each and every aspect of our devotional service. But this is the understanding, at least with respect to this particular pastime. This pastime cannot be understood if we are materially motivated, if we are under Mahamaya. So we have to take shelter of Yogamaya. Right? So thank you so much. Srila Prabhupada ki, Srimad Bhagavatam ki.